What's going on YouTube? My name is Dom. Today I will be going over water strategy, and that sounds kind of funny when you say it out loud. Now this strategy comes from Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest samurai who ever lived, in his book, The Book of Five Rings. I must make a quick disclaimer that this strategy is not applicable to any one game or activity, but is universal. The Rogue Company gameplay that you see in the background is merely for entertainment. Now on that note, if there's only one thing I want you to take away from this video, it is a quote from Musashi's book. 1,000 days of training, 10,000 days of refinement. Now what that means is it takes 1,000 days to learn the principles, get used to them, and then 10,000 days to master them. So just something to keep in mind with all the things that I will be going over. However, the importance of the principles that I will go over are not in descending order, so try to watch the entire video to get the full picture because some of the more important ones are actually towards the end. So let's go ahead and hop in. Now firstly, and probably the most important idea, is to have a relaxed mind at all times, even when under intense pressure. So essentially, you want the same state of mind during combat as you would have in everyday life. Now this is incredibly difficult to do and to achieve. There's a couple different techniques that you can do to implement this. One of them being mindfulness meditation. If you are interested in that, I will link some good resources for that down in the description. Essentially, how I like to think of it is, in everyday life, you are calm, you are relaxed. Think of your most relaxed position and then try to maintain that when doing whatever activity it is you're trying to excel in. Now, I'm talking about gaming in particular, so when you're under intense pressure in a game, maybe you're in a 1v4 clutch situation or something like that, try to maintain your same level-headed and your same relaxed mind. Now, this will also help you keep from getting angry and keep from losing your rhythm, which is also super important. So it's not only good for performing well in that instance, but for continual success, you want to maintain a relaxed mindset. So this is actually taken from Taoism. It's adapted from Taoism, and my name is DomOfTheDao, so Lightbulb there. Secondly, practice observation instead of perception. Perception is weak and full of subjective biases. Perception is how we as individuals see what is in front of us, what is in our view. We might see something as big, small, tough, easy, etc., and these are all subjective terms. So think about when you go out in public and you see someone who is 6 inches taller than you, they look very tall. However, to someone who is 6 inches taller than them, they may look small. So think about it like that when you view an opponent as good or skilled or something along those lines, that is just your perception. That is not an actual fact. That is simply the way you are seeing it, and try to remove your biases from the situation. Observation is seeing things the way they are. See a nervous opponent, a confident one, or a gap in an enemy's position, etc. You want to see what is actually present, not your own perception. Now Musashi also adds another layer to this. He speaks of, because he's a samurai, he speaks of seeing the enemy's sword without actually looking at it, and to carry this over to gaming, that would be to see the entire frame without moving your eyes across the screen. I like to think of this as stepping back and taking in the full picture. Don't get tunnel vision on a specific angle or point on the map. And this takes a lot of practice. I will admit it is difficult to implement. Thirdly, fluidity is the way of life, and fixation leads to death. Fixation on minor details is oftentimes a hindrance to performance. You want to be relaxed and fluid. Don't think too much about little details, only major and important ones, and even then, don't think too hard on these in the heat of battle. Preparation is the time for intense thought, not in the actual fight. However, you can think in between things, just get in your natural rhythm and try to implement the principles that you've practiced beforehand. Well, oftentimes, especially myself, we have a habit of just focusing too much on things that only account for about 10% of our success. For instance, an example of this might be focusing too much on trying to jump shot or drop shot your opponent. In case you're unfamiliar with those terms, that's where you either try to lay down prone when someone's shooting at you, or you try to jump up when someone's shooting at you, just to make it more difficult for them to hit you, rather than focusing on actually killing them. Focus on the big things, get those right, and then you can think about the little things. But remember, even when focusing on the big things, don't focus too hard. Fourthly is positioning without a position. Do not focus on straight positioning or fitting a rigid format. A position's strength is only in relation to your opponent. This means one formation will be strong against what your opponent is doing in some circumstances. In other circumstances, it may actually be weak and it may make you vulnerable. In this way, leave your position able to be changed at any moment. Be fluid, be adaptive to your situation and whatever is strong for that moment. Fifthly, and super important and something we often don't think of, is that every opportunity is an opportunity to kill. Do not think of blocking or being defensive, retreating, etc. Think of every opportunity as an opportunity to strike a killing blow. This is something we often don't do. Sometimes we think of purely retreating or playing defensive for a specific amount of time, when in reality, what you want to be doing is when someone attacks you, think of how it is also an opportunity for you to kill them. Because remember, when someone attacks you, they may open up in a certain position. So maybe you go around them slightly and flank them as they try to attack them. In gaming, you might call this a parry or something like that, where you hit them at the same time as them hitting you. Don't think of this as a collision though. I don't want you to think of when someone charges you, you charge them. Maybe a better way to think about it is if someone charges you and you do retreat, find an alternate route to hit them from the side as they're chasing you, or something to turn the tide in your favor. Every opportunity is an opportunity to win. Sixthly, always be the first to strike. If your timing is correct, it really doesn't matter how good your opponent is.
It doesn't matter what you think!
That is crazy to think about. Pay attention to your opponent's rhythm and attitude in order to discern when their rhythm will break down and then strike. So when I mean rhythm in this sense, rhythm just refers to flow. So how your opponent's playing, how you're playing, you get in a rhythm, you get in a flow. It's an abstract concept. I can't really define it too well, but yeah, I think you understand what I mean. So think about and feel for when your opponent makes falters. When do they make missteps? And that is when you strike. And then you try to predict those moments, and you strike as soon as they happen. And always be the first to strike, because remember, if someone strikes you first, you give them the opportunity to kill you first. However, you could counterattack and you could do very well that way, but remember, try to be the first one to strike. Now, one important thing I want to leave you with is one of the most powerful quotes that I have personally encountered. Today you will overcome yourself of the day before. Tomorrow you will win over men of lesser skill. Later you will win over men of greater skill. Now, if you enjoyed the video, think about checking out other videos I have done recently and possibly subscribing and liking the video. And always remember, it's 20% skill and 80% strategy.